Released by Aiding in 2008 on the Nintendo Wii, Castlevania Judgment is a 3D fighting game that would take place at the end of every Castlevania timeline. Directed by Akihiro Minakata and produced by Koji Igarashi, the game would be a crossover of 13 iconic playable characters across the franchise's history before the series would be rebooted with the Lords of Shadow trilogy. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. Before the game begins, it's 10,000 years into the future as the son of Dracula, affectionately called Kid Dracula, wakes up after sleeping that entire time. However, he sees the dinosaur Galamoth has laid claim to his throne and embarks on a journey to defeat him and reclaim it. After trying and failing to defeat Kid Dracula a second time, Galamoth decides to use his time and space powers to send his servant and Death's counterpart, the Time Reaper, 10,000 years into the past. There, he is to destroy the time period Dracula exists in to create a timeline where Galamoth rules unchallenged. This anomaly draws the attention of the Time Watchers, where a guardian named Aeon seeks to halt the disruption and mend time. In order to do this, Aeon travels to the Rift in Time, and while he is able to fight in this pocket dimension, he finds the Time Reaper is locked away beyond a time barrier. Needing enough souls powerful enough to open the door to the Time Reaper, Aeon plucks figures from the mainline Castlevania series and alternate timeline into this universe where everyone is designed by Death Note illustrator Takashi Obata. Greeting them all individually to see who among them will be the strongest, Aeon finds a dozen such warriors pass his tests and allow them free reign to wander this dimension on their own. Simon Belmont, fresh from his victory over Dracula in the first Castlevania, is surprised to meet the legendary trio who defeated Dracula before him, dueling with Sypha and Grant, and honored to clash with his ancestor Trevor Belmont in his prime. Simon confesses he sometimes wonders if his strength is his own or from the vampire killer whip, but after a good duel with Trevor, he feels he can believe in himself more. Alucard, long after the events of Symphony of the Night, now searches for a way to break his father's cycle of resurrection. He is intrigued by the Time Wanderer Aeon, but dismayed to see one of Dracula's devoted servants, Carmilla, here as well, refusing to help her help his father. Later, he recognizes the lance of a young boy as the one he gave the Belmont branch family Lacard. As Eric replies, he thinks Alucard should have more faith in him and his weapon, believing it's superior to the Holy Whip and is eager to prove it. Passing by Maria, Alucard is relieved she is from a time before they met, as he is halted by Dracula's eternally loyal servant, Death, who still presses the son to join his father. Death warns him, pointing out Alucard has never beaten Dracula at his full power in single combat, as he was aided by a strong party in Castlevania 3 and only defeated an incomplete version of him in Symphony of the Night. Alucard admits this is true, but it won't stop him from trying, as Death replies he will be shown no mercy. Trevor Belmont, the first Belmont to defeat Dracula in Castlevania 3, was investigating a resurgence of his cultist worshippers preceding Curse of Darkness before arriving here. Seeing Alucard next, the two are glad each other have been keeping up with their training, though for Alucard it has been 300 years since they last saw each other. After a friendly match with nothing held back, Trevor is shocked to see Sypha here as well, but so young as it turns out she comes from a time before they met. Curious to face his future wife when she was a fierce hunter of the church, Trevor wins a fight with her fair and square, mentioning to the side that after they get married, he is rarely allowed to win any of their domestic disputes. Sypha, meanwhile, is pulled years before Castlevania 3, as she is a witch with power over the dead and the elements, agreeing to fight as a hunter of the church as protection during a time when witch hunting was on the rise. She runs into another hunter of a similar nature, Shanoa, but senses that she uses the same power as a vampire, and the two do not see eye to eye on their means to accomplish the same end. Later, Sypha is shocked to run into Carmilla here, who laughs at the witch for wearing the robes of the same church that is persecuting other witches. Carmilla asks how the witch trials are coming along, considering she is the one who helped nudge mankind into that campaign, and an outraged Sypha lashes back. Grant Dynasty, settling into his role as Wallachhia's rebuilder and defender since the end of Castlevania 3, sees this time displacement as a second chance to appeal to Sypha, who he secretly loved and wishes he fought harder for. He takes his shot with young Sypha, claiming to be her future husband, but even she doesn't fall for that lie. Running into Trevor, the Belmont is glad to see his old friend, wondering why he never showed up to his and Sypha's wedding. Grant apologizes, admitting he cannot bear seeing her wed to someone else, and Trevor realizes what he means. The two men clash over love, and Trevor wins, pointing out how his friend's skills have dulled, and Grant replies he can trust Trevor to keep her safe and happy, accepting his loss. Despite his age, 15-year-old Eric Lacard, 10 years before he would embark on his Bloodlines journey, is fervently training with Alucard's spear his family safekeeps and uses to support the Morris and Belmont families. However, despite taking his responsibilities seriously, the hot-blooded young man resents his supporting role in this arrangement. Despite being told earlier by Alucard himself the spear was designed to complement the whip, Eric stubbornly thinks it's more than that, running into the legendary Trevor Belmont and tries to prove his point again. Unfortunately, Trevor doesn't like Eric's tone and duels him to work out his attitude adjustment. Still sore, Eric later finds Maria Renard and admits he always admired her for her magical power that surpassed even the Belmonts. Meanwhile, Maria comes from the time a few years after her victory with Richter over Dracula in Rondo of Blood. However, she finds herself in the company of more mature female hunters. Finding herself self-consciously comparing herself to Shanoa, Sypha, and even Carmilla physically, Aeon steps in to tell her her fixation on appearances will fade in time, assuring her time will bring her what she desires. For Shanoa, she was picked right when her adventure during Order of Ecclesia began, still an emotionless hunter of the Order. Wishing to build her strength to defeat Dracula, she is surprised to run into so many people here who have already vanquished the Lord of Darkness. Running an assignment, she surprises him with how the Belmont clan has all but disappeared in her age, and the whip was lost for a time. Explaining mankind had to develop alternative ways to stop Dracula, this intrigues the Belmont as he tests her strength and deems her power already enough to challenge Dracula. To the side, Cornell is pulled from before Legacy of Darkness during his 1 year of ascetic training to master his man-beast transformation, now trapped here in his werewolf form. Despite being friendly, Cornell is rejected by every Belmont and Hunter, all seeing him as the Wolfman they know from their own timeline, who was one of Dracula's strongest and long-standing servants. Sypha even tells him there is no cure for his curse except death. Ironically, Cornell is later approached by Death, who claims his affliction can be remedied by the dark arts, which Cornell is glad to hear. However, he does not trust Death and refuses to serve Dracula, earning the ire of the Grim Reaper, who admits Dracula still has need of the werewolf. As the servants of Dracula gather in this dimension, one golem becomes self-aware, and Aeon says with this there must be something it wants. After thinking, Golem wonders why it lives in the first place, knowing that it does not want to fight, yet is forced to defend itself against the various hunters, questioning why others want it dead. Grant mentions he's a little jealous the Golem doesn't have to live with heartbreak like him, and seeing Cornell, the Golem wonders if because there was a curse that turned him into a wolfman, perhaps there is magic that can turn Golem human. Seeing Carmilla, the Golem recognizes her as his creator, calling her Mama, but the vampire says it can never be human, to which the Golem says it still wants to believe. Taking this question to Death, the Reaper notes its self-awareness and replies cryptically that it depends on one's definition of human. Asked what makes a human human, Death replies the essence of a human's soul is the capacity to ponder one's existence. Golem concludes that because it thinks, therefore it is a human, but Death cuts them off, saying Golem is a defect and was never built to think. Regardless, Golem decides it is happy now, but it dawns on them that if Golem returns to their original time, then it will lose its free thinking, and Aeon confirms this. While it doesn't want to return to its old life, Golem knows that if the timeline isn't saved, then all life in it will end, thinking the most human thing to do would be to fight for the humans here while it can. Surprised to be called here as Death itself, learning Aeon is yet another wanderer of time like Saint Germain, and wondering if this means this age is on the verge of collapse. Aeon explains he needs the soul keys to unlock the way out, and figuring if it serves his master Dracula, Death will cooperate while their interests align. Unsurprisingly, Death attempts to reap the souls of the Belmonts, mocking them by saying their clan is fated to die out regardless. Working to support Death is Carmilla, also willing to do anything to support Dracula, as she is surprised to see dark power being utilized by both Shanoa and Cornell. However, despite her painful persuasion, neither are willing to pledge loyalty to the Lord of Darkness. Conducting a clash with every character, Death reports back to Aeon saying everything should now be in place, and learns the fiend that challenges his master is Death's counterpart from 10,000 years in the future, sent by the one seeking Dracula's throne. With nearly all the soul keys he needs, Aeon prepares the main guest for his plan, Dracula himself. Brought in during the height of his power, Dracula sees Aeon as a time traveler immediately, and Aeon explains someone is willing to go so far as to destroy this timeline to ensure Dracula's downfall in the future. Dracula scoffs, unconvinced of the threat, but welcomes the opportunity to exert his dominance on those who have defeated him in the past, declaring good and evil are just empty words and power is what always wins. Dracula is met by his son Alucard, greeting him, though Alucard is determined to fight his father. Dracula reminds his son he has never shown him his true power, even when he teamed up with his human friends, and Alucard admits back then fear may have held him back too, but here they can finally unleash their full potential. Accepting the challenge, Dracula teaches his son it is far too early for him to be surpassed as he returns to Aeon with the final soul key ready to end this nuisance. Aeon tells him one last obstacle remains, and that is to defeat the servant of Galamoth sent from 10,000 years in the future to hunt down Dracula specifically. Mocking such a cowardly strategy, Dracula allows Aeon to use his time blade to open the time barrier to the Time Reaper to save his timeline himself. Proving he is more than able to be the champion Aeon seeks to save this era, Dracula confronts his would-be assassin and finishes the fiendish foe, fixing fate for himself and everyone here. As the game ends, the rift in time is mended and everyone is indeed returned to their respective eras as Aeon would return from a successful mission. Though it would be humanity's fate to doom itself instead of an outside force, he knows it is every action, great or small, that brings the world closer to salvation or ruin. Castlevania Judgment has enjoyed the success of selling over 160,000 copies worldwide. With this, every Castlevania game from every timeline is now concluded, just as the series would be rebooted. What did you think of the idea of a crossover fighting game tying everything together? Let me know your thoughts below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next battlefield.